Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means each night we ask ourselves what happened today, what areas of significance were tested, and what does it tell us about the coming ones. Do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursdays, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, reach up in the right-hand corner and do so. Follow along. Anytime I push content, you'll get a notification. As far as what happened today, last night we were saying they were going to try and bounce it. It was an attempt, and they did actually get it happening here on the NDX. But if you look at the broad markets, right, the S&P, the NASDAQ, just couldn't get it quite on the NASDAQ, couldn't quite get it on the S&P, but you could see the reversal, and you'll see it in the charts. And so we did get that push that we expected back up after the test into those lower lows that we were looking for. And so, overall, I think this market's kind of behaving as it should. Oil sells off. Gold up slightly. Oil sells off. Dollar was up 0.6. Gold is behaving pretty good with the dollar going up. But that may be coming to an end. If we get a chance, we'll look at that. Overseas, more pain. Hong Kong gets hammered in the Nikkei as well. And so we're continuing to see the pain trade take place. We did see the bonds back off a little bit today. Let's take a look at the charts themselves. We'll start here with the S&P 500. Got the daily chart up. Last night we were talking about, the key test here was going to be a test into this big bar. This was the wide price spread bar here, swing point high. It had come into it, tested into it last night, said it was going to try to test some more. Got deeper, actually, than I thought it would. But, I was talking to some folks a little bit earlier. We were doing a show, a mentoring show, that seminar that we had put together. And when we were doing that show, I noticed that this bar actually had high volume and was a significant bar itself. That was this bar here. So volume comes up, trains up. It tests into it, has less volume, gets under it, right into that area there, gets under it, closes back over, does a doji. This does look like with the Fed tomorrow, this thing is going to try to do the bounce. Now, question always is once you start doing a bounce, where are you going to go to? And that's what we were talking about in the seminars. Where is this thing going to try to bounce to? Rather than spoil the fun, I'll just simply say wherever it bounces to, right? Potential ABCD structure to the upside, to the downside. So in other words, something like that, for example, could get you back down into these lows. So we'll have to see how that bounce behaves, how it tests into the significant area that it alerted those folks to tonight, and we'll alert the members to in the morning broadcast. And we'll see how it plays out. But it looks to me like it's going to try and bounce just as we expected coming into today. NASDAQ also trades lower, does a doji, ends up the same way, trades into the big bar on the way up. If we look at the NDX, do note that volume did expand today, but compared to those big bars, it's probably still within reason. NDX, same thing, doji, wanting to try to bounce its way back higher. And finally, if we go over to the Russell, now the Russell was doing, let's grab the Russell chart. Russell was doing the test of the high, right? So we had a swing point high. We talked about the retest regen zone. The retest regen zone is pretty simple. When you break over something, the retest of that area, and that area is the high and low of the bar that was broken. And so as you break over it here with this this green breakout, in other words, you had more volume, and you go over it, and you stay over for more than 6 bars, which has been the case here, before you do the test, right? More than 6 bars. That says that the probability that this thing is going to bounce is pretty high. Also, the probabilities that it shouldn't get to the low are pretty high as well. Well, this one did get to the low, actually got under the low, but still set up to try and bounce. Just tells you it's a little bit weaker than you would like to see. Low today was 1141.23, closes at 47.82. The low of that swing point high was 45.85. So you get up underneath it, you close back over it, right? So you're in the range. That looks like it's also going to try and bounce tomorrow. So indexes here, U.S., look like bounces to me coming into the Fed meeting. If we go overseas, I didn't actually take a look at these, so let's look at them together real quick. I know that we were targeting, we'll start with the DAX, we were targeting that high of the low bar on the DAX on the weekly. Let's pull the weekly up. That number there was about, 9337. Got to 9507. This thing could trade lower overnight and try to get into that number. Now, if you look elsewhere, we actually saw some pretty good damage taking place in the CACs. The DAX did break these two swing point lows testing the other one, but the CACs has broke them all, right? Breaks 3 swing points lows, volume expands. If you go to the weekly, it's into the bar, and it's also breaking on a weekly. If you're going to keep this thing from spiraling lower, these markets in Europe are going to have to get a turn, and I suspect tomorrow is where they need to get it. So let's see if they trade lower overnight and then get the turn coming into our markets or as a result of our markets. A lot of Brexit fears over there that we've talked about look to be taking a toll. Quickly, let's take a quick look at Switzerland and see what it is. And Switzerland all the way down to the lows as well. So we've got a cascading move to the downside, and Switzerland's down testing its swing point low as well. Moving over to Asia, we'll start here with Hong Kong right quick. See what Hong Kong looks like. A little bit of a continuation move to the downside. Coming in some big bars, coming into swing point high. This is the retest regen again. When you come back for the first time, and actually this isn't, this is the second time, it can get deeper, but it's been a while since it's been back here, so I suspect it's going to find some support. Quick look at Shanghai. It's probably going to tell about the same story. Yeah, it looks about the same, not much difference there. A little under over. I don't have the volume, so I don't know what that looked like. And finally Nikkei. Nikkei is all the way back under a low, swing point low. It breaks last night. And this thing's trying to get to the swing point low as well. So you can see the huge difference between Asia, Europe, and the U.S. The U.S. market certainly the strongest ones out there. Looking over at the OX markets, it's going to be about the currencies tomorrow. Let's see what they shaped up tonight. We saw the dollar bounce again. I'm wondering if that dollar is going to find a way to work lower tomorrow off of the Fed. It's been interesting on this rise into the Fed. It's almost as if they fear what the Fed is going to say, and so I'm kind of wondering to myself, is the fear really correct or not? And part of this, of course, I'm sure has to do with the British pound getting hit of late. I was just looking to see if there's anything here to match it up with, and I don't see anything until you get into these two bars over here. So it just looks like a gap fill to me, up into resistance, trying to do a gap fill on that big gap down. That gap down, if you remember, was a surprise move on the employment number a week and a half ago. Let's look at the euro and the yen as well. And let's see here, euro. So the euro closes the gap. U.S. is trying to close it on the other side. And on the weekly, it's really not much difference there, still in the area. And the yen, of course, has been getting hit. Not hit, the U.S., the dollar is being hit versus the yen. Yen's almost to the highs, and that's why they continue to have their problems. Let's see about Britain. The Brexit vote's next Thursday. And boy, this is coming back down to the lows again. So it's going to try to break a swing point low. This is, of course, putting a lot of that pressure that you're seeing in the FTSE. We didn't show the FTSE chart, but they're at their lows too. And Europe in general, probably this fear looks like it's growing. So tomorrow, what's the Fed going to do? I can't see them doing anything really. If anything, it's probably going to be a little bit hawkish talk and more of the same. Not hawkish, but dovish talk and more of the same, some hawkish follow-up the week or two afterwards. If so, we'll probably see the dollar try to come back in some. My expectation is these markets are going to try and bounce tomorrow. If they don't, they're really telling us that things are weaker than we expect, and that Brexit vote or whatever is driving those currencies. I've seen other stories, but it looks to me like most of it is the concerns of Europe seeing the British Isles leave their grip. And I'm not sure how that's going to fly if it actually happens. And my man in Switzerland tells me that there's a good possibility it could take place based on the bookies. That's it for tonight. What do we got here? We're Tuesday night, right? So Wednesday's tomorrow, Fed's tomorrow, and a week from Thursday is the Brexit vote. Have a great night. Thanks for joining me. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great one. I'll see you next time.